And God was like, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are human though. Like, think about it from a human perspective right now, right? Do you know that we get to a place where we actually say, oh God, you know, you are amazing, you are this, you are that, we're going to trust in the Lord and all these different things. But then what happens when the very thing that we've been praying for, it actually fails? Oh, see, that's a word, because I'm trying to tell you that what happens as us when we're not, you know, just naturally, like we're praying and we're fasting and we're believing, and the very thing that we've been believing for, it does not come to pass. What happens when the very thing that we've been asking God for, and we've been saying, God, you know, I want you to do this, I want you to do that, and then it just doesn't come through? What happens when your grandfather, you were praying and you said, God, keep them alive, just keep them there, and then they die? What happens when you actually been praying and saying, God, please pay the bills, and then you actually get evicted? What happens when you've been praying and you've been fasting for your marriage and then it fails? What happens when you've been asking God to save that child and they're still living out here and just being reckless and doing everything else? And then what happens is, a lot of times when those things happen, we start to see and we start to compare ourselves to other situations. We start to compare ourselves to another relationship. We start to compare ourselves to another person's, you know, whatever they got going on in business or whatever it is. And we start saying, okay, well, you know what? I'm blessed and highly favored, but truthfully on the inside, I don't feel blessed and highly favored. Or truthfully on the inside, I don't feel good. Truthfully on the inside, even though I've been saying that, oh, I can't doubt him because I know too much about him, I actually do feel a little bit of doubt because you let me fall. And then God said in that 23rd verse, when Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, when they were sitting there and then they actually fell, even though they had enough boldness to tell Nebuchadnezzar, we won't worship you no matter what the situation is. I want you to think about it from a human perspective. If you fall into the fire, just imagine what you feel. Just imagine feeling less than. Just imagine feeling like, wow, God, you really let this insecurity rise up. You really let this situation happen to me. You really let the molestation happen to me. You really let the rape happen to me. You really let the divorce happen. You really let these situations happen. Why in the world would you let these things happen? Even though I was bold for you, even though I was bold for Christ, even though I actually stood up and I said, I won't worship anything else, why would you let those things happen to me? And that's what God was saying, just like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Because before we go off into what the end of the story says, let's talk about the 23rd verse, that they were like, okay, listen, I'm bold for you, but now what is this nervous feeling? Now I'm scared. Now I'm like, okay, I'm lost. Now I don't know what to do, because now I'm at a place where I'm like, okay, you know what? I done did everything you asked me to do. I done went out here and I was bold for you. I went out here and I did outreach for you. I went out here and I fasted for you. I went out here and I was praying. I was doing everything that you wanted me to do. I was being obedient, and then you still let me fall into the fire. God, why? Why in the world? And I don't know who you are, but you're like, why? Even though you've been saying things out of ritual, and you've been saying things like, you know what? Like, you know, God is good. God is amazing. But the truth is, you don't feel like that on the inside. You don't feel like that so much because you're at a place where now you're like, okay, like, is God really good because you don't let this happen to my child? Is God really good because you let me go through this? Is God really good because you let me in this situation that I never would have thought I would be in? And can I tell you today that just as Shadrach and Meshach had fell in the fire, that Jesus was in the fire with them? And I don't know who needs to hear this, but God is in the fire with you. And can I tell you that there have been so many moments in my life where I was like, God, if you are really here, then why is this happening to me? God is not afraid of your why. God is not afraid that you ask him questions and say, God, I don't even know anymore. I'm lost. I'm sad. You are his child. You can go to him and say anything. You can go to him and ask him for anything. You can say, Lord, I'm really lost right now. I don't know what to do, but I'm here to tell you that Jesus is in the fire with you, that God is there with you right in the situation, right in the midst of what's going on, right in the trial and tribulation.